Hello and welcome to the section 1 on PreloadJS. In this video, we're gonna learn how to load graphic assets using PreloadJS, calculate the loading percentage, and display the graphics. We're gonna start off as usual using our HTML5 template, which already contains the importing of the PreloadJS library. In the body tag, we're gonna add an event for onload, which is going to call a function called init. In the init function, we're going to add the entire functionality. We're going to start off by creating a new variable called queue. The queue variable will be initiating using new PreloadJS.loadQueue. The loadQueue element will assist us in creating a loading queue for loading the graphic assets. PreloadJS can be used to loading other elements, not just graphic assets. It can be used to load sounds, and it can be used to load files. So we're going to write var queue new PreloadJS.loadQueue. Now we're going to write the init function. The loadQueue object in PreloadJS has a few events which we can listen to, and according to these events, know what the progress of the loading is. So we're going to add 3 of them. The first one is progress, which provides us with the exact percentage of loading of the entire queue. For example, if we have 2 elements, after the loading of the first element, we'll have 50% loading, and after the second element, which is also the final element, we'll have 100% loading. So we're going to write queue.on, open brackets, the name of the event is progress, and we're going to call a function called handleFileProgress, which we're going to write later. The second event which we're going to use is fileLoad. The fileLoad event is dispatched every time a file completes its loading process. What we're going to do in this event is display the image we just loaded. So we're going to write queue.on, open brackets, the name of the event is fileLoad, and now we're going to call a function called handleFileLoad. The third event which we're going to listen to is complete. The complete event is dispatched every time the loading process has completed, which means that all the files have been loaded. So we're going to write queue.on, the name of the event is complete, and the name of the function we're going to call is handleComplete. And we're going to write it later. Now what we need to do is load the files. The PreloadJS library has a method called loadManifest. LoadManifest receives an array of file names and loads them one after the other. So in our case we have an assets folder which has 3 files, 1.jpg, 2.jpg and 3.png. And we want to load them in this order. So we're going to write queue.loadManifest, open brackets, and we're going to create a new object. The first variable is ID. That's the name which we'll use in the application to call that file after we've loaded it. The second parameter is source, spelled SRC, which contains the path to the file. Since we have it in our assets folder, we're going to write asset/1.jpg. We're going to do the same thing with the 2 other images. And we're going to close the brackets. Let's review what we've just done. We've added event listeners to the loading process, and we've listed the files we want to load in that loading process. Now we're going to write the functions which we used for the event listeners. So we're going to write function handleFileProgress. The parameter it receives is an event, and here we're going to use the console. We're going to write console.log. In order to get the progress, we're going to use the queue variable and access its progress property in order to know the progress. So this line will show in the console our progress. The second function which we're going to write is handleFileLoad. HandleFileLoad also receives an event as a parameter. In this case, we're going to take the file we just loaded and display it on the HTML page. So we're going to write var image, we're going to access the queue object, we're going to access its getResult method. Now one of the parameters of the event object, which we used in the header, is event.item.id. This property will give us the ID of the object we just loaded. So we used the myImage, myImage2, and myImage3 IDs. So these are the IDs which we're going to get at the end of each loading process. So now in the image variable, we have the image we just loaded. We're going to write document.body.appendChild, and we're going to add the image, and this will display the image on the HTML page. So now we have a handle file load function, which is called every time a file has completed its loading process, and it displays the image we just loaded. The final function which we're going to create is handle complete. In this function, we're going to use the console again, and we're going to write loading complete in the console to state that the loading process has completed. Now it's time to test our code. We'll open the page in the browser and open the console to see all the console calls we've added. So as you can see here, we see in the console the progress. We can see that the images are displayed one after the other in the page. You can see the percentage of the loading process of the images. And at the end of the loading process, we can see the loading complete call. Now we've seen the functionality of each one of the functions we've created. We've seen the handle file progress, which showed us the progress in the console. We've seen the handle file load function, displayed the image every time an image has completed its loading. And we've seen the handle complete function, which has written loading completed in the console. Congratulations, now you know how to load assets using PreloadJS. We have successfully completed the section of the Create.js overview. In the next section, we're going to discuss about the game outline and how to start working on the game itself.